Hi, welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. Brian Fisher is my name. This Thursday edition of Focal Point on the American Family Radio Talk Network, AFR Talk. Great to have you in the conversation today. Now, a couple of things. I want to start out by talking about some values issues. We had this update today I'm getting from WorldNet Daily that, remember, we talked with you about that valedictorian at his high school that deviated from the prepared script and talked about his faith and about the importance of protecting the constitutional right to religious liberty. And the principal cut his mic off. Now, I mentioned yesterday, or sent a tweet out to this effect, there's another student in the state of Texas. Yeah, I talked about this yesterday. He chose his graduation speech to come out as homosexual. You think the principal turned his mic off? Absolutely no way. He did not want the entire wrath of the homosexual bullies, the homo fascists, coming down on his head. So he let him talk as long as he wanted to. But you talk about faith, you talk about the Constitution deviating from your prepared remarks, which is what this homosexual student did, you're going to have your mic cut off. And the principal of this student who had talked about his faith, his name is Remington Reimer. When he deviated from his prepared remarks and began talking about freedom of religion, got his mic cut off, the principal tried to sabotage his career with the U.S. Naval Academy. He'd been accepted, this student, such a quality student, been accepted to the U.S. Naval Academy, and the principal was threatening to write a letter to the U.S. Naval Academy, try to cut this guy off at the knees. That's just vindictive and bitter and angry. Now, since that story got some attention, got some circulation, apparently the principal has now backed off of that threat, as well he should. Now, Jan Brewer, the governor of Arizona, has won a significant court victory. Got atheists out there, secular fundamentalists. I call them secular fundamentalists because they're more fundamentalist than Muslims. They're more fundamentalist than Baptists because they have certain principles that they are absolutely committed to, that represent the absolute fundamentals, the foundation of their worldview. They never deviate from this. They never depart from this. They insist that these fundamentals be honored and observed in every part of society. And the number one bedrock principle of secular fundamentalists is there will be no public acknowledgement of God anywhere, at any time, under any circumstances. They are fundamentalist. Just like the jihadists have certain Muslim fundamental principles they believe. They are Islamic fundamentalists. They are devout Muslims. So secular fundamentalists are just as religiously devout as the most ardent jihadists out there. And their number one principle, no acknowledgement of God anywhere, at any time, under any circumstances, in any public setting. So the Freedom from Religion Foundation, we've talked about them frequently before. And again, they just completely destroy the Constitution right in the name of their organization, because the preposition in the Constitution is freedom of religion, not freedom from religion. It's exactly the opposite. We are not guaranteed in the Constitution freedom from religion. We are guaranteed freedom of religious expression. But apparently the Freedom from Religion Foundation was absent on the day they taught prepositions in elementary school. So they tried to ban the Arizona governor, Jan Brewer, from making proclamations regarding the annual day of prayer. She was making these proclamations just as the president does. In fact, the president is required by law to issue a proclamation in connection with the National Day of Prayer. And the Court of Appeals in the state of Arizona threw out the complaint from this atheist group unanimously because they couldn't show any harm. They're out there trying to say they are psychologically damaged. This was the basis for their court case, that they had suffered psychological damage just by knowing that Jan Brewer was issuing proclamations supporting prayer. And the judges said, look, give us a break. The alleged harm was nothing more than a general feeling of second-class citizenship and outside status. So he's saying, look, you got your feelings hurt, big deal. You don't get to take somebody into court because your poor little feelings got hurt. Now, Tim Tebow, as you're aware, been drafted by the New England Patriots. Jay Leno said he's got to watch out now that he's been identified with the word patriot They're going to start auditing his income returns. But the owner of the New England Patriots, his name is Robert Kraft, and he said that Tebow's spirituality, that's the word that he used. You and I know we're talking about Christianity. So his Christianity, his spirituality is important to him, and it is appealing to me. This is the owner of the New England Patriots. Now, I want to play a couple of sound bites on the pro-life issue just for a moment. We're going to talk, by the way, speaking of the pro-life issue, you're aware that Obamacare mandates that every employer at his own expense must provide abortifacients. This is a prescription that can cause an abortion. Rush Limbaugh was confused about this the other day. I think he got it straightened out by the end of his program. But there is no question that Plan B can cause an abortion because it can prevent a fertilized egg, which is a human being in its earliest stage of development. It can keep that fertilized egg from implanting on the uterine wall. Now, according to the some fancy pants left-wing medical association, a woman is not pregnant until the egg implants in the uterine lining. They don't count it as a pregnancy until that happens. So they're saying, no, this doesn't cause an abortion because she's not even pregnant until the egg implants in the womb. So the fact that this pill causes the uterine lining to slough off so it cannot provide a home for that fertilized egg, they're out there saying that's not an abortion. Well, you and I know better. We know that human life begins at conception, that if you find a way to flush that thing out of a woman's body, that is an abortion. You have just terminated a human life at its earliest stage of development. And you know that Obamacare is going to require companies to provide at their own expense this medication to their own employees so they can go out and abort babies if they have sex and decide the next day that they don't want to do it. It's called emergency contraception. Plan B. Plan A is, hey, save sex for marriage. That's Plan A. That doesn't work out. Or use some other means of prevention. That doesn't work out. Here's Plan B. This is the morning after. Wake up the next day. You regret what you did. Here's how you can solve your, quote, problem, end quote. Now, one of the businessmen that stood up to this is Steve Green. He is the president and founder of Hobby Lobby. We're going to have him on at the top of the second hour. So I want you to tune in for that. Top of the second hour, Steve Green with Hobby Lobby is going to be here, and they have gone to court against President Obama and against Obamacare. This is a Christian organization run by Christian principles. We are not, and he said just flatly, and we'll ask him to confirm it on the program, he said flatly he is not going to capitulate on this. He's not going to surrender. They could be subject to fines of up to $1.3 million a day. Steve Green says we are not going to surrender on this. I'll have my company go out of business before I will capitulate to this kind of Nazi-esque tyranny. Now, on the floor of the Wisconsin State Senate yesterday, a powerful debate on the issue of the sanctity of life, and there was a bill. It passed the Wisconsin Senate 17-15, strictly party line vote. 17 Republicans voted for it. All 15 Democrats voted against it. But in the course of the debate, there was a pro-life legislator. Her name, let's see if I can grab her name. Her name is Mary Lazich. I'm not sure how you say her name. Powerful, powerful pro-life speech. This is a woman speaking on the floor of the Wisconsin Senate yesterday in the debate over this ultrasound bill, which will make it possible for every pregnant woman to see an ultrasound image, a picture of her baby that she's carrying in her womb. 65 to 90% of abortion-minded women, once they see a picture of the baby they're carrying, they choose life. So here are two sound bites of her impassioned argument, her speech on behalf of unborn life. Here's clip one.
We had a lady testify. Her name was Carol. She testified that a number of years ago, she went to a clinic, found out she was pregnant. I believe her location was Kenosha. The testimony's out there. We can track that down. She was told to go to Milwaukee and get her abortion. She described the very cold procedure and what happened in the cold environment. She went to this cold environment. Someone was sitting there passing around Valium. She goes in, she's crying through the procedure. They told her, don't worry, it's a blob of tissue, you're doing the right thing, get it over with quick. She goes home and lives with this day after day after day after day. The rest of her life, she lives with this trauma. And it's time for that to end.
Wow. Woo. There's smoke curling out of her ears. And I just love the passion. This is a woman, so they can't go after her about the whole men thing. This is oppressive. This is patriarchy. She's a woman, and she is passionate. And you heard her, passionate not just about protecting the life of the unborn baby, but passionate about protecting the mental and emotional health of the mother who aborts. Here's clip number 2.
You really make up your mind you want to do it, go somewhere safe. Go somewhere safe and credible. But these places that tell you it's a blob of tissue, get it done quick, you're doing the right thing, you don't have a job, you don't have a father, you're too young, you're this, you're that, that's words I shouldn't say on the Senate floor. But that's baloney. That's just wrong. That is wrong. And we're not doing that to women anymore in this state. You're going to get the full information, and you want to make that decision and do it. At least you're doing it with full information. You have regret. It's an I told you so thing. But the mountains of women now that are regretting these abortions, when it became popular in the 60s and it was almost the thing to do, you needed to get one of them to be a woman. And now look what those women have to go through. When they hit menopause, when they get to be about 40, it's a severe, severe attack on their mental health and on their physical health. And then those that, it was the only chance they had, then they couldn't have children after that. Honest to Pete, this is the most ridiculous thing. And I think we ought to be doing a lot more, and you're probably going to see a lot more laws from me, because these clinics that pull this crap, it's a blob of tissue, it's the best thing you can do, you're too young, that's baloney.
That is baloney, and she would have preferred to use a much stronger word, but decorum prohibited her from that. And the end of that, what drew me to this clip on the internet was because there was this huge shootout when the vote was taken. And the Speaker of the House or the Senate rather, the President pro tem of the Senate had to keep gaveling for order because pro-abortionist, pro-death legislators were interrupting the roll call vote. And that parliamentary, from a standpoint of parliamentary procedure, you don't do that. Once the roll call starts, that's it. No more debate, no cat calls, no interruptions. But that's what they were getting. And he got really ticked. Sit down right now. So that was pretty entertaining television, but what gripped me was this passionate speech from Senator Mary Lazich from the state of Wisconsin. And she said, look, you're going to see more legislation like this from me because I care about women. Focal Point in AFR Talk.